Good morning. Thank you for coming. And today we are talking about the current situation in Zambia. There is an impasse between the family of the late president and the present government led by UPND party. So this has been a problem for a long time. And we think that the world should know what is happening in Zambia. The world should know what is happening in Zambia because there are certain background information that the world doesn't know, and when they see these things happening, they don't really understand why should there be a fight, why should there be a problem, why should this be that, and all those things. You see, so I'll try as much as I can to try and explain for the world to understand, okay? So, the court case that is in South Africa about the Zambian government and the late president. People need to understand these things. The former president was running away from Zambia from political persecution. Even though he had his immunity, his family was harassed. They stripped him off of everything: security, pensions, medical care, everything. Former president office was closed. So the former president was just like an ordinary man. Even upon doing all those things, they still went ahead and stopped him from even from accessing medical treatment, even on his own expense, not the government expense, but his own money. They still stopped him to go and see the doctor. So this is how cruel these people are. This is how cruel these people are. This present government, you see? So if you do all those things, even when he tried to travel on his own with his own money, they will still wait for him to go and sit down in the plane, and they will stop that plane and they pull him out of the plane and told him that he's not allowed to travel. Even though he has a passport, he's not allowed to travel. You see? This is how cruel, this is how mistreated he was. And so you need to understand, when the family says, no, we don't have anything to do with you, it is because of what the government did. Okay? You don't force somebody, stop somebody from going to the hospital, and when he dies, you want to show that you loved him. If you loved him, you should have allowed him to see the doctor. You should have allowed him to access medical treatment, even on his own expense. So this is where the problem is coming in. Now, I know some people are saying, oh, but the South African court has ruled that the body should be repatriated to Zambia. Oh, yeah. You need to understand what is really going on. In Zambia, there is no law that mandates the government to conduct a state funeral. There is no law. You give me a chapter in the Constitution of Zambia where the government is being mandated by the law to conduct a state funeral. There is no law. Okay? Now, some people are confused. So why, if you say that there is no law in Zambia that mandates a state funeral, what about the other state funerals that have been happening? Yes. Those state funerals that have been happening, it is a courtesy of the government. If they want to recognize you for the exceptional contribution that you have done to the country, they can offer you a state funeral. So it is a courtesy, it is not a law. In Tanzania, a state funeral is a law because it was passed by an act of parliament. It was passed by an act of parliament in Tanzania, but not in Zambia. So, even the argument that the Zambian government presented in court, that, oh, let's follow Zambian law, that this is a precedence, all the other presidents were buried like this, state funeral and all those. Yes, all the other presidents were buried by a state funeral, but a state funeral is not a must. Is not mandated by law. There is no act of parliament in Zambia that mandated that. So, but why has it been happening? It has been happening because it is a courtesy. The government thinks that they can offer you a courtesy, they can give you exceptional respect, they can do that. But remember, a courtesy is not a law. Me as an individual, I can choose to accept the courtesy by the government. If the government wants to honor me, I can accept. And I can also reject it because it's not a law. I am not breaking any law. If I reject a state funeral, I am not breaking any law. So this is what people must understand. If the government wants this to be a law, they must go to parliament. That's why there is parliament in Zambia. There is parliament in Zambia, and we are paying those members of parliament a lot of money. You can even call them midnight, that there is an emergency here, and we need a law that is going to allow us to do these things. They can do that. Okay? But there is no law that has that. This is why the Lungu family is in order. They are within their constitutional rights to reject whatever government is offering them. Because it's too late. They should have offered that when he was sick. They should have allowed him to go to the hospital. They should have paid for his medication. You see, I remember at one time he was given an appointment by the doctor that, oh, he should, after being seen in South Africa, he was given an appointment, like, come back after a few weeks. He couldn't travel back to Zambia because he knew that if he came to Zambia, he wasn't going to be allowed to go back. Even people who cleared him at the airport were all fired. You see, that's how cruel this government is. So, me, as a Zambian, they shouldn't include me when they say that, oh, it is public interest. No, it's not public interest because a lot of us Zambians are not interested in what the government is doing. We are not interested in what the government is doing, and we are not in support. Okay? Yes, they won with a landslide victory, but that victory has evaporated because of their bad actions, obviously. They promised a lot of people and they didn't do nothing, you see. I mean, they promised the youths, because the youths are the ones who voted for them. They promised the youths that they will give them mining licenses when they come into power. And guess what? When they came into power, they are killing the youths for instead of giving them mining licenses they promised them, they are killing them for mining. Whereas the so-called investors who are not paying any tax are given free. They are the ones mining and they are not paying any tax. The owners of the country to mine that minerals, and they are being killed. So you cannot tell me that this is a good government. It's not. You see. So the family is in order to reject the offer by the government. And rejecting a state funeral in Zambia is not a crime. It's not breaking any law. I can give you another example. Another example is the same president, HH. He himself, it is a precedent in Zambia that all the presidents live in state house, okay? All the presidents that we have had, they live in state house. He has decided to go and live in his own house. Who has bothered him? We told him, Even though that idea of living in his own house has caused a lot of damage to the country because we are spending too much money, okay? And the policemen, their lives are at risk. Most of them have even been involved in the accidents because of driving at a very high speed, trying to clear all the traffic from the road for the president to pass. You see? There was one woman who was hit by one of these police officers those traffic police people that are clearing the roads from that are clearing the cars from the roads. I mean, they just killed one woman. And guess what? He was, that family was like given, I think it's like a $10,000, no, 10,000 kwacha, which is something like less than $5. That was the compensation that was given to the family by the government. Can you imagine? And one police officer also was in an accident. He died right there on the spot. He hit into another person's car. All those are damages that have been caused by his insistence on living in his own private house instead of going to live to state house, in state house. Nobody has forced him, have you seen? So public interest is only when he himself who is interested, have you seen? I'm appealing to the family to take this matter to the Constitutional Court in South Africa. Have you seen? Because the so-called Zambian tradition or Zambian law that the South African High Court based their judgment on doesn't exist in Zambia. You understand me? The law which the South African court used to determine to pass judgment on this case doesn't exist in Zambia. You see, there is no law in Zambia that says that somebody, when a former president dies, he becomes a state property. There is no law like that. There is no law that says that he should be buried on this particular place. Those things were done as an understanding, as a memorandum of understanding. They sit down with the family and they discuss, okay, let's do this thing. That's all. But Parliament never passed a law to mandate the government to do that. This means that when the government does that, it is a courtesy. It is a goodwill by the government. It is not a law. And a courtesy can be accepted or it can be rejected. You can give me something, I have the right to accept your gift or to reject your gift. If I reject your gift, I am not breaking any law. If I accept your gift, I am not breaking any law. You see? So I would like this case to go on and go to Constitutional Court in South Africa where they can decide, because the man died in exile. You see? Even if we don't want to accept that the man was in exile, I mean, he was running away from his country. He was afraid to come back to his country because of political persecution. And so when he dies, you cannot say that he becomes a darling, you see. And not only that, when you look at the man, the President Lungu, he comes from the East. In the East, the government was supposed to even involve the chiefs in the East. They never did that. So in the East, when you ask a chief in the East that, oh, we have a funeral, the president died, they will tell you that we don't know that there is a funeral. You see, because they haven't been officially informed by the government. Have you seen? They haven't been officially informed. And guess what? They have gotten a chief from a southern province. That is the chief that is even trying to inspect the body. On what grounds? Is he a doctor? Is he in forensic or what? What qualifies him to do that? You see? So I'm with the idea that this case should be and it should be appealed because the judgment was based on a wrong foundation. There is no law in Zambia that the South African judges were standing on. Have you seen? So the actions of the government are unconstitutional. They are outside the constitution. If this is what they want to do, the first thing they should have done, they should have allowed Parliament to pass a law to mandate a former president to be given a state funeral by the law. Obviously, not just trying to force people to accept the offer of a state funeral when that is not a law. Because if you try to give somebody something that they don't like it, it's not a law, it's not a crime to reject it. You give me a gift, I say, no, I don't want your gift. It's not a crime. Let them make it a mandate, like what they did in Tanzania. In Tanzania, they made it a law. You see? And not only that, the family has made it clear that they don't want President Hakainde Hichilema to be in the funeral, to preside over the funeral. Obviously, it's common in Zambia, even within among family members. You can have a brother or a sister, and you can tell them that, because there's bad blood between you and me, when I die, don't come to my funeral. It's a common thing, they do it. Even in South Africa, they do it. President Zuma was told by one of the people there who died that he shouldn't come to his funeral, and he didn't go. Here in America, President Trump was told not to go to the funeral of Senator John McCain. He didn't go. So it's a normal thing for people to say, don't come to my funeral. So if President Hakainde Hichilema was told not to go to the funeral, the best he can do, the best respect he can give to the late president is to stay away. If he stayed away, all these things were not going to be a problem. You see? So this battle continues. We need to take this case to the Constitutional Court in South Africa. Let the Constitutional Court decide whether the High Court in South Africa was in order to base their judgment on a precedents, not laws in Zambia, but precedents. And why is it that the same precedents, others are breaking them and there is no consequence? President Hakainde Hichilema has refused to live in State House, even though all the other presidents have been living in State House. He has refused to live there, and there's no consequence about that. Why is it that if President Lungu, late President Lungu, refused to be buried at his embassy park, why should that be a crime? Why should that be a problem when it's not a law? I rest my case. Those who don't agree with me, you can bring up your arguments. I would like to hear them. Thank you for listening, and I am urging everybody to subscribe and share and like. If you want to hear the latest information in Zambia, it is here that is being said. Thank you for listening. God bless you.